Deputy Speaker. I'm grateful for the opportunity to raise the issue of full-time social action this evening. I thank those colleagues who have stayed for the debate. I'd like to thank City Year UK and the National Youth Association for their important work in this area and their help with the research. I'm pleased to have secured this debate because social action and volunteering form a significant part of our national identity. We've all seen the value of volunteers in our own constituencies. In Mansfield, Woodhouse and Warsop, our community benefits from dedicated volunteers who give their time to help a wide range of local charities and important causes. I've met so many wonderful volunteers since I've been elected, there are far too many to list individually, so I hope they'll forgive me if I miss people. I inevitably will. But to all those involved in supporting Framework, Mind, Mansfield Wildlife Rescue, the Beacon Project, Hetties, Nidus, the John Eastwood Hospice, the Shared Youth Club in Warsop, Woodhouse Community Development Group, there are so many, and many more third sector and voluntary organisations where people are giving their time and money to support amazing work. Volunteering is often life-changing, and for those that participate, it can be incredibly fulfilling and bring about real change in communities. As a younger man, I was in scouting for more than 10 years, and things like the Duke of Edinburgh scheme got me involved in all sorts of voluntary work in communities and helped my own personal development. But social action and volunteering can be a great way for young people to learn new skills, build up valuable experience for their careers and boost their own confidence and communication skills. As MPs, we all know that volunteering in politics is just about the only way to get involved and to end up where we are in this place. This debate centres on full-time volunteering or social action. Working on a full-time social action project has a huge impact and allows volunteers to really immerse themselves in a new challenge. I'd like to specifically focus on the benefits for younger people. I'm talking about people aged 18 to 25 who volunteer to tackle our country's biggest challenges. It's hugely worthwhile with benefits that are twofold. Both the projects themselves make a difference and the participants gain those useful skills and experiences. I will give way.
Can I thank the honourable gentleman for giving way and congratulate him on securing this debate? I've seen social action projects in my constituency firsthand at Bagley Hall Primary School. Alongside the staff team there, City Year UK do vital work in helping raise attendance, behaviour outcomes, supporting the pupils that they do. Therefore, does he agree with me and the holiday report that the government should be doing more to support social action and encourage and recognise full-time volunteers?
Thank you for that intervention, and it's great to be able to recognise another group that are doing good work volunteering with social action. I absolutely do agree with him that we can do more, and I hope to touch on some of those opportunities as I progress.
I thank the honourable gentleman for giving way. Some of the issues or the groups he's raised is very commendable, to say the least. I've come across young people that actually help people with dementia in particular, and there's a very interesting project that's going on with some of the younger people in Coventry, and also issues for people who are blind, by the way. But one of the things I'm sure the honourable gentleman would agree with me, we could do more to try and reinstate youth clubs. Played a vital part years ago, and I hope he agrees with me the government should have another look at that, because that might be a way forward in relation to knife crime, for example.
For his intervention and those examples, I agree that youth work is really important. It's something that I am very involved in with the National Youth Association, and that I'll touch on a little bit later, but I thank him for that. Full-time volunteers help on a wide range of projects for charities like City UK, Volunteering Matters, the Scouts, the Wildlife Trust. These include schemes to support disadvantaged children to get better grades at school, projects helping homeless people, and all sorts of environmental projects, as well as examples we've heard from colleagues. There's a huge range of options to suit different interests, and each project ensures that volunteers themselves learn and develop skills. Despite a proud heritage of volunteering and community action in the UK, we're actually behind some other countries in terms of realising the full benefits of this. I want to touch on some of those examples of where this works well before I look at some specific issues, including the impact on employability and some barriers within our existing legislation. Countries such as Germany, France and the USA have recognised the value of full-time social action by creating national programmes for young adults, which attracts over 100,000 participants a year. France set up a Service Civique programme in 2010, and just 8 years later was attracting 140,000 participants a year, and it seeks to expand even more this year. These initiatives can attract such significant numbers because of the quality of the offer. They come with a guarantee of excellence, and volunteers can choose a full-time project in line with their interests and undertake that project for up to a year. In return, they get financial support and they can stay involved, and incentives to complete the programmes. And those rewards mean that even young people from the most disadvantaged backgrounds can participate. In America, the AmeriCorps programme, Youth Build, had notable success engaging volunteers from low-income backgrounds. In 2014, a report indicated 93% of volunteers entered that programme without high school credentials. As I've often said before, university education isn't the right path for everyone, and I have concerns we push too many people down that academic route. I'd like to see full-time social action as a possible path into work for young people, and it'd be great to see it recognised by government as an opportunity to bridge that gap between education and employment. These initiatives provide value for money for those governments. Evidence from the USA shows that their programme, the AmeriCorps programme, returns $4 for every one that is invested. The evidence shows that these projects improve youth employment and allow young people to explore different careers whilst gaining experience and skills. In government, we've recognised the value of that on-the-job learning. Apprenticeships are a brilliant way to gain valuable experience, but volunteering is another path which offers young people the chance to learn skills and try different things. The social action projects build resilience, improve communication, they can be creative, involve teamwork. They're the crucial skills that employers are looking for and which are required even in entry-level jobs, particularly for those that have struggled with the academic side of school and left education with few qualifications. Having that work experience in a real-world setting can be genuinely life-changing. The City Year UK is a full-time social action charity that recruits 18 to 25-year-olds, and their programmes are proven to improve work readiness and the employability of volunteers. Their latest report shows that 90% of alumni were in employment, educational training within 3 months of finishing the programme. But under this government, youth unemployment has dropped substantially, including in my constituency in Mansfield. There are over 439,000 fewer young people out of work since 2010. That's great. More young people have secured a job, but there's still more to do. And I believe that social action is a good way to support those young people who still are struggling to find work. Having a recognisable government-backed programme in place rather than the piecemeal approach that exists at the minute would ensure business understands the experience and the skills that young people have gained from those projects, and it could become a recognisable achievement. And whilst it's good that the DWP recognises volunteering can help people develop vital skills, I think we could offer more support for full-time social action projects on a fixed term. Currently, full-time volunteers in England are categorised as not in education, employment or training, known as NEET. In other words, they're part of a problem that needs to be fixed. But I believe that it's time the government changed this status and did more to recognise the benefits of social action programmes. And that's where simple changes could actually have a big effect. Even if we can't offer financial support, we could remove barriers to participation that currently exist within our welfare system. Unemployed people claiming job seekers allowance or universal credit are required to spend a certain number of hours searching for work, whilst outside these hours claimants can spend time volunteering. The system could be much more flexible for those people who are engaged in worthwhile community projects. Ultimately, the volunteering they do can contribute much more than the cost of benefits in many cases. The universal credit claimants have their required weekly work search time, which is usually 35 hours, and that can be reduced by half to accommodate voluntary work, but it's still difficult to fit a full-time social action project around 18 hours of job seeking. That won't be right for everyone. A lot of people want to get straight into work. Some people need to be pushed to put that time and effort and energy into finding work, but for others, and particularly perhaps young people, there's an opportunity to support them through programmes like this that deliver positive long-term outcomes both for communities and individuals. Simply adding another category to say that they're volunteering and doing something productive and positive rather than neat would be a good step forward. Under current guidelines, charities that the young people volunteer for are also unable to offer training beyond the essentials required for their social action project. So any extras around employability or additional support for those volunteers aren't allowed, and that hinders the effectiveness of those programmes. I think we could quite easily, and at no cost, relax some of these rules to help charities support their volunteers, remove some of the barriers to establishing full-time social action, with a clear element of the programme that focuses on employability. In December 2016, the government launched the Full-Time Social Action Review, which was chaired by the former Chief Executive of National Grid, Steve Holliday. Mr Holliday published his findings in January 2018, which acknowledged that youth full-time social action plays an important role in meeting many governmental priorities: social mobility, inclusion, careers education and skills development. The review called for government to better support, encourage and recognise full-time volunteers. It made several recommendations on how to achieve this. I'm keen to focus on what I believe is the most significant of these, which is introducing a full-time social action pilot scheme for young people. The creation of a government-backed pilot will be a huge step forward, one that might ultimately grow to emulate initiatives like those in Germany, France and the USA. A government-backed scheme would help provide a new pool of easily identifiable, work-ready young people with real-world experience and a renewed sense of civic duty. This kind of thing is being discussed regularly in Parliament. I've worked closely with the National Youth Agency as part of my work on the APPG for Youth Affairs. I'm pleased that they support Volunteer Matters in their call for HMRC to recognise full-time volunteering through awarding full national insurance credits. And this would mean volunteers don't lose out because they choose to volunteer and give back to their communities. I hope government might consider opportunities to support full-time social action using the Dormant Assets Youth Organisation, which is already committed to invest in programmes that help young people facing barriers to work. I'd argue that a full-time social action programme would fit that remit perfectly. We also need to build on the APPG for Youth Affairs recommendations for investment in the youth workforce, as my honourable friend opposite mentioned earlier, of professional youth workers and skilled volunteers to support social action projects and provide leadership and mentors for young people, especially from disadvantaged backgrounds. The NYA's Youth Covenant is also worthy of support and recognition. I'm pleased that government supports several programmes which enable volunteering opportunities, including the I Will Fund, which aims to create more opportunities for people from disadvantaged backgrounds to volunteer, Connected Communities Innovation Fund, which aims to tackle barriers to volunteering and mobilise more people. These are important steps, but it's time, I think, to look again at the benefit of full-time volunteering. Polling conducted by Census-Wise on behalf of City Year UK in 2016 found that over 90% of those polled think a recognised programme of full-time voluntary civilian national service should be on offer for young people in Britain. Over half of 16 to 25-year-olds say it would definitely be an option for them, and nearly a third would consider signing up to a programme like that if it was government-backed. A programme like that has the potential to build a platform for young people from different regions and socio-economic backgrounds to serve together, side by side, for a common purpose, whilst restoring national pride and sense of duty and service. There's also an opportunity to work with young people who are disabled or who have special educational needs, to offer mentoring and guidance, helping to work where it's possible, and other support that might currently be lacking. The civil society strategy commits us to equip young people with the ability to help the country tackle its most urgent challenges and ensure they have the opportunities to develop the skills, networks and resilience that can improve their life chances and fulfil their potential. We could achieve this through a programme of full-time social action. The creation of a programme like this could maximise public investment in national citizen service, government's short-term social action programme for 16 and 17-year-olds. NCS has laid a solid foundation on which to build a more intensive long-term offer. Nearly 100,000 young people engage with the NCS every year. In Nottinghamshire, figures 2016 show over 1,400 young people participated. I helped to assess and judge some of the community work, working with Notts County in the community. I've met young people in Mansfield that have benefited from that programme, and I know that many of them would be interested in full-time opportunities. A national programme could ensure that the NCS isn't just a one-off intervention, but actually creates a lifelong habit of social action. Interestingly, UK government already supports full-time social action for young people, but only for those who serve abroad in international citizenship service. £8.5 million has been allocated by DFID for the international citizenship service next year, but no money is allocated to those who choose to serve their communities through social action here in the UK. If we could replicate that support so young people could equally help and volunteer in our public services and good causes here in the UK, that can be of benefit both to those young people and to their communities. If government needs any further reason to act, an independent report by Pro Bono Economics found that 10,000 young people volunteering full-time for a year could earn the UK economy between £28 and £119 million. A relatively modest investment in a government programme would pay off quickly, and I hope colleagues would agree the benefits are far more than simply economics. It's also, in my view, an intrinsically conservative thing to do, offering independent volunteering and education opportunities for young people to equip themselves with the skills they need to get on in life and be responsible for their own progress and their own decisions as adults. I'd encourage government to consider a pilot scheme, perhaps in a deprived area such as Mansfield, might be the ideal place to come and do that, and see what impact the full-time social action has on employability of young people. I hope that in a reply the Minister can provide an update on what government's doing to support full-time social action since the publication of the response to that review for young people last July.
Minister Minns-Davies.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And may I congratulate the member for Mansfield on securing this debate. He is a great advocate for the interests of young people in this House. His dedication and enthusiasm in promoting his work and the work of the APPG on youth affairs speaks volumes. And I am also on the record, as we heard from his speech, speaking about volunteers being my favourite people. And I think the passion and commitment shines through and raises some interesting thoughts cross-government for us rightly to address. May I turn to the intervention? He's in discussion, but I will quickly do it to the member for Coventry South, who, is definitely busy, regarding the issues around youth crime. This is a complex issue, often tied to local factors, and I was just meeting with the Prime Minister and other ministers following on our summit from youth violence, and this is something we're absolutely committed to working on in terms of a multi-agency public health approach. I'll also turn to the member for Wythenshawe and Sale and absolutely agree about the value of social action and engagement in and through our schools. I think it's worth taking a moment that we have the Chamber to focus on this, to look at the broader issue of youth social action and why it's such an important part of our efforts, as we've heard, to improve the life chances of our young people. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, in this country we have a proud record of helping others. It's the cement that binds our communities together. And almost a quarter of the population formally volunteer at least once a month. Many do more informally. And social action, as we've heard, is about people coming together to improve the lives of others, to solve problems that are important to them and their communities. And it gives people the time to be engaged in a range of opportunities, from volunteering to helping run community-owned services and to community organise or do simple neighbourly acts. Therefore.
I wonder if the Minister would agree with me that in a lot of these projects it helps young people to find their way forward in life, because very often young people haven't quite made their mind up what it is they want to do in life. So I think it's valuable from that point of view. But equally, we've also got to remember that not everybody's academic minded. They might be good with skills, but not necessarily academically good. And I sometimes think we lose track of that when we're going about further education and university education and things like that. And I think it's an important aspect, and it's a key to some of our problems we've got with young people today in some of the housing estates, particularly when you get acts of violence, of burglaries and that sort of stuff. And I think it's an area that the government could do a lot more to focus on.
I thank the honourable gentleman for his intervention, and I responded earlier about the importance that the government is focusing on regarding the task force around serious violence. I absolutely agree with the earlier point as well about intergenerational understanding, and through this kind of work that absolutely can support our young people from getting more opportunities to learn soft skills, but also have that intergenerational understanding, that soft mentoring as well. So it's absolutely to be encouraged across our communities, and I'm sure there's much that goes on in many of our constituencies that even as MPs that we're not aware about, but it's absolutely vital that we continue to support it. Now, a good example is around Dementia Friends programme that the Alzheimer's Society runs, and we recently had a refresher as the DCMS ministerial team on how to support people living with dementia and turn understanding into action. Now, this programme has been very successful, widely taken part in, with 2.5 million dementia friends working to create an environment in our communities where people with dementia are able to live well and be rightly cared for. And of course, if we are going to renew and refresh that spirit that keeps our communities vibrant, we need to keep young people in a central role. And the latest generation of active, involved citizens moving forward, it's absolutely vital we support that, and I'm very pleased that we will be developing as a government the new youth charter. And let's have a look at some of the broader work that the government is doing to support this activity. Northumbria Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust has recently recruited 15 young people to spend time with older people in their own homes to help combat loneliness. And in time, this project will grow to 200 people, and this is just one of the projects supported by the Pears Foundation and the government and the National Lottery Community Fund backed I Will Fund. And this, for young people, will help, as we've heard today, social action open doors for them. Young participants will be able to develop those essential skills and tools that we've been talking about for work and life. It will build their resilience, it will enhance their well-being, and it will help them, more importantly, give back to their community. Now, in 2017, the National Youth Action Survey by Ipsos Mori found that young people who do take part in social action have a higher life satisfaction, do have improved job prospects and, importantly, have stronger personal networks. However, what is also crucially important to the individual and our communities is not the hours that young people spend doing social action, but the quality of the social action and the experience for our young people. For example, it matters that social action is part of the community and is focused on a community problem, and that it's shaped and owned by the young people taking part themselves. We heard earlier about the mentoring and the soft skills learnt by this experience. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'll come to the issue of the full-time social action review. Now, this review, as we heard, was chaired by Steve Holliday. It was both important and extensive in its work. In a total of 180 individuals and organisations were fully consulted, with 48 pieces of evidence submitted by charities, businesses, importantly young people, and the youth sector stakeholders. Roundtable conversations were held for providers, economists, employer and regulation specialists, and vitally, 77 young people also took part in the focus groups. Videos promoting the review reached over 84,000 young people. Now, clearly, young people painted a mixed picture of full-time social action opportunities. They found some experience helped them through a difficult point in their lives and furnished them with those new skills for their future. However, some people, and also importantly, highlighted that barriers prevented them from taking part in full-time opportunities. Now, important issues were raised, such as adequate financial costs to cover living costs and the negative implications for social housing, study, or indeed wider caring commitments. And indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker, one person said, and I quote, "On balance, it would be a struggle to say it was worth it by virtue of the short and long-term personal and financial repercussions. I do not regret the time I spent volunteering, but would personally not recommend anyone take a voluntary position unless they have significant financial backing." The review also reflects, and I again quote, "the evidence demonstrating impact of full-time social action in contrast to part-time social action is currently very limited. Many organisations argue quality of social action is more important than quantity. And I think this last point is very, very important. So we are aware of the value that full-time volunteering can bring to those that participate. However, devoting limited resources to the expansion or further evaluation of approach that the extensive review has told us already has little additional benefit to other approaches at this point is not, in my view, the sensible way forward, especially as many of the barriers to full-time volunteering arises out of personal life experiences. So rightly, the Government has welcomed the report that acknowledged those issues and importantly set out a series of steps to make sure that full-time social action opportunities are more accessible. For example, in our response, we welcomed a number of the recommendations, including the excellent work by the National Council for Voluntary Organisations to create good practice guidelines for organisations that do provide full-time social action opportunities. And importantly, one recommendation in the panel's report mentioned a proposal for the government-backed full-time social action pilot, as we heard mentioned. Now, understandably, this is a well-intentioned proposal. However, given the lack of clear evidence and the feedback currently from young people, we do not think that there is sufficient evidence for a separate full-time social action fund. As the House is aware, though, we do back a number of high-quality programmes for our young people, and last year we published the Civil Society Strategy, as we heard. Now, this sets out an important vision for the next 10 years, and it shows that there is a vital role that young people can play in tackling challenges and creating a better future in their community through this strategy. And as we heard, the national flagship policy that we currently have is National Citizen Service. Now, this programme is open to all young people aged between 15 and 17. It's designed to deliver a concentrated programme of positive activities, personal development, and vitally includes the opportunity for social action for our young people. And I am pleased to say that nearly 500,000 young people from all social backgrounds have so far taken part in NCS. And together they have given over 12.5 million hours of their volunteer time. And we also know that graduates from the NCS give back 6.3 hours of volunteering per month compared to their peers who have not taken part in NCS. So it's also important that the government listens to young people, know that young people do care deeply about the environment. So this year, 2019, the year of green action, NCS has been asked and will directly engage with young people on many environmental projects, including Clean Air Day. And NCS is especially good at involving a higher proportion of people from special educational needs. For example, in 2018, 5% of NCS participants had special educational needs versus 2% of the comparable population. So we're also supporting young people to participate in social action by backing the I Will campaign, as we heard earlier. We have the Step Up to Serve campaign. Now, this is working crucially with businesses, also with philanthropists and the voluntary sector, and also local institutions to make social action part of life, from our 10-year-olds to 20-year-olds. And in support of this, the partnership with the National Lottery Fund, we're also working with other funders to create further new opportunities for our young people to participate in social action. So the £40 million I Will Fund has a date, partnered with 20 match funders, and has that it's estimated that 650,000 new opportunities will come forward for our young people. And as I said earlier, social action is not something that's just important for our young people. We heard about the importance of the civil society strategy. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Government has set out the importance of mobilising the time and talents of all people of all ages in this strategy. Now, the initiatives are wide and they reflect the needs of the communities. For example, working to train 3,500 more people in community organising via our place-based social action programme. We're also working with the National Lottery Community Fund to help local areas on a shared vision to address their local priorities, to shape their volunteering, co-design services and social action. So I just want to pick up on one point in terms of using dormant assets. We're absolutely doing that in the department and shaping the next stage of our strategy in terms of interventions for young people by using those assets. Absolutely right, we do that. So in conclusion, Madam Deputy Speaker, we are aware of the huge benefits that social action can bring to our young people. And while we're not looking to privilege a particular route on volunteering, it will always be an essential part of our thinking as we examine the ways that we do support our young people and their future.